The Boulder floods weren't great for a lot of people. 4 people were killed, 8 people were injured, seriously injured. The timing for me wasn't the best of timings. I had just turned 52 a couple of days before, and my girlfriend at the time and I had just split up or agreed that it wasn't working. And I was playing at Cafe Soleil, and the flood started, and everybody left to go home, and a bunch of my friends got caught up in the Lyons floods. And I was unfortunately living on Linden Street. I don't know if some of you know Linden, but Linden was one of the hardest hit streets, and it was unfortunately where the boy and the girl were killed. I was about 50 yards away when that happened, and I was evacuated immediately. Most of the people on my street were evacuated. At that time, I was working as a manager for a restaurant on Broadway that was directly on the river. And we were taking shifts to monitor whether or not the river was coming into the building or not. And I'd taken a short start, and I got in the midnight shift. And at that time, wow, I'm feeling a lot more emotion than I thought I was going to, sorry. At that time, I was in my house, and the rain had stopped for the moment at that point. And I was sitting in my house, and I remember the distinct thought was, don't go, man, you don't need to go, it's not raining, it's all right, it's all good. But I have this weird thing about integrity and keeping my word and doing what I said, so I went. Now, you have to really imagine a battle zone. There was no electricity, it was pitch black, the civil defense warning sirens were going off, and to get to where I had to go, I had to walk around the gas station at Arapahoe, around towards the river to get to the back. And I was walking, and I was kind of grumpy, and I came around the back of the gas station, and that's what happened. That's what I remember. There's a disjunct for me, because what I remember was this feeling of my head getting slammed 3 times. And I thought, what did I walk into? That was the thought that I had. And what had actually happened was I had fallen, and I remember there was a lot of water where I was, and the sound of the river was right by me. It was like a freight train right by my head. And I'd fallen quite badly, and I thought I'd broken my face. Because I remember slamming against the ground 3-4 times. I kind of put this together afterwards, and I sat up, and I don't remember quite how, and I kind of gathered myself, and I did a scan, and I didn't see any broken bones. There was no blood coming off of my face, and there was nothing really that bad. So I stood up, and like any macho idiot, I went home and took a Vicodin and went to bed. Which is what macho guys do. And I also had a lot of injuries in the past, so I was kind of familiar. But I went home, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, and my arms were bright red, and I felt like steel rods, flaming hot steel rods were being shot up into my arms. So I got up somehow, and I got to the hospital. And at that time, the urgent care was underwater. And so I had to go to the emergency room, and I went into the emergency room, and they took one look at me, and they rushed me in, and I had x-rays, and they had this surgeon come down, and there's this thing. And the guy walks me into a room, and he sits me down, and he goes, "So what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a musician." And the first words out of his mouth were, "Well, what do you play?" And I go, "I play guitar." He says, "Well, you're never going to play guitar again." And I looked at the guy, and I was like, "That's the first fucking thing you have to say to me?" And I was in a lot of pain, and I wasn't really quite coherent about what was going on, but I remember I started crying, and I looked at him, and I said, "Seriously?" And he goes, "Yeah, you've broken both your arms, you've completely broken your elbows in both places, 3 pieces here, 1 piece there, and we don't cast broken arms, so you're going to have to walk around with broken arms for the next 6 months." And they put me in these 2 slings. Now, at that time, I was hosting the Fringe Festival. Some of my friends here remember this. I was hosting the Fringe Festival at my venue, and they put me on a whole bunch of opiates. And I'm told I wasn't the most pleasant person during that few-day period, and I apologize to any of my Fringe friends for that. It's quite amazing what you need your elbows to do. I was locked in this position, and I was in a lot of pain, and you need your elbows to shave, to eat, to touch your hair, to wash your body, to wipe your ass, and that's a whole dance right there. That was months. And I went through a really challenging period where I wasn't sure I was going to play music, where I wasn't sure I was going to recover. Long story short, music community came around. I told people that I was just going to play. I did a gig with Hazel Miller, and she came up to me afterwards and said, "We think you're playing great. We just can't tell over the screaming." So that was pretty much that. And in the end, I think we all face storms, as it's been pointed out. And I think that there's that one transitional moment where you're just going, and then something else happens. And I think that's what happens in the course of life. And I think that what I got out of it, at least, was that I know that the next time that transition happens, hopefully I'll be a little bit ready. Thanks.